Susan Steele Mulholland, and Artbeat is going to be visiting Katherine Steele Renninger. We're not related. Wish we were. She's a terrific artist who does a lot of the scenes of downtown Newtown. Come with me and we'll join Katherine. Newtown.
I think it's about 35 years.
That's a long time.
Since 1952, three.
And you're originally from here?
No, I grew up in Feasterville. And when we got married, we lived in Philadelphia while my husband lived, because I could not...
Country.
It was country then.
I bet.
3 blocks wide, and our neighbors had chickens, and sure. Oh, this has really changed a lot, but some of it hasn't. You know, the wonderful old houses that I like to paint haven't.
No. Well, now you went to Moore
That's
College,
right.
And then did you set out to become an artist, a painter?
I thought I wanted to be an illustrator, and unfortunately I found out that I wasn't very good at that. So,
No, fortunately.
well, I don't know. Anyhow, I have become a painter. I was also a teacher for many years.
At Moore?
I taught at Moore. I taught drawing, which I think is just wonderful because everybody has to learn how to draw. Now that house over there is one that I had painted at once, with all the gingerbread
Yes.
stuff.
When you go, do you take a photograph and then paint?
I have been lately, but I used to make very detailed, very laborious drawings. And then I realized that that wasn't exactly the most effective, efficient way to do it. So I tried taking pictures, and I'm learning how to do that a little better. And I usually have to supplement them with drawings of things that are very intricate. My eye and my hand work better than my camera, but then I'm prejudiced.
Well, so much of your work is very architectural in style. Why do you think that? How did that happen?
Well, they're the sorts of things that I like to do, and I suppose that could be because I grew up in a family where the father was a building constructor, engineer.
That shows.
And I thought at one point I wanted to be an architect, but fortunately my father knew me better than I knew me, and he said, you're not going to want to work for people, and I hate to do commissions. So he's right. I think I would have been a dreadful architect.
But that engineering flavor comes out, doesn't it?
Well, I guess. I mean, I was used to reading blueprints and looking at plans, and I was interested in that sort of thing.
And the geometrics of...
Yeah. Well, it's the design that is really the thing I love the most.
Well, you go through periods, don't you? Well, for instance, you did a lot of chairs.
Oh, I still love chairs.
And bottles.
Yes. And I went through a thing of tractor seats once,
Oh,
Susan.
really?
They were really interesting. No, they were marvelous. They were heavy cast iron, and they looked like shells enlarged. They had these wonderful cutout designs in them.
Katherine, I've noticed that you've done a lot with reflections in your paintings. How did that all start?
Well, it has been a development, but it started really quite by accident one time when I was taking our son, who at that point had a newspaper route, to pick up his newspapers. And it wasn't a very nice day, sort of just like this one. And as we drove by Morell's, me being this good mother type, I saw this big, wonderful white perambulator in his window. So I told him, and I was terribly sorry, he'd just have to go do his thing. And I came dashing home to get my camera, and I went tearing over there because it had a sold sign on it, and I thought it's going to be gone in 5 minutes. So I took the pictures, and the strange thing was that the Brick Hotel, which is across the street, made this wonderful reflection. So I was sort of operating on 2 levels. And ever since then, if I can find something that does that, I will, just pick it up.
Did you realize that in the original? Or did you when you got home and got the pictures?
Oh, I didn't realize it until I got the film back.
But now you look for
But now I hunt for it, sure.
Yes.
Right.
Well, Katherine, here's the great Morell's.
That's right. I think that this has been the thing that I have probably enjoyed painting the most, and certainly have painted the most often, because he keeps changing the window. And every time I go by, here's a whole new painting. I've done the whole facade, I've done the door, I've done this window, I've done that window, I've done them inside looking out. It's just been like a gold mine.
Did you ever count how many paintings have?
When he wasn't very well about a year ago, I got all the slides of all the paintings that I had ever done on it and had them printed painted and gave them to him for a get well present. And it was really fun for me to see, you know, how they had changed and varied over the years. It was fun.
It does. It gives you especially, well, you could do lights.
That's right. You can do anything.
That's right. You know, I'd like to see the church.
All right.
Let's go there.
Okay. It's really a wonderful old church. It still has all the square box pews and a balcony. Oh, it's great. I hope the door's open, Susan. I'd really love to show you the inside of this. Uh-oh, that's too bad. Well, we'll look at the paintings, or the photographs of the paintings at home, okay?
I'd like to see them, yes.
I wish you could have seen it. It has a wonderful panel. It's really pretty. I think you should see this. Come on in.
Thank you. Oh, this is a great studio.
Oh, it is. It's
Yes.
not very big, but it works, and it's where I spend most of my time. This is the balcony of St. Luke's that I had really hoped to be able to show you.
Now, those are just whitewashed pews?
They're wooden pews that are painted white. It really looks much more like a Quaker meeting.
Yes.
But it's, as I say, really a very dear, special little building.
The one next to it, is that Morel's?
That is a very old painting that I had done of Morel's. You can see the old firehouse, and of course that has all been fixed up. And then the houses beside it are actually on Court Street, so some of these are not
You took a liberty.
factual, right?
Yes.
This is the Newtown Friends meeting house.
Uh-huh.
And
This is
that's
when you were in
another
your
one.
bench period.
I was in my
pew
bench period, right. Oh, I've done all the meeting houses. They are just wonderful. They're so, you know, rectilinear, I guess is a good word.
From the inside.
Yeah, from the inside. This is another one of the Newtown meeting house.
Yes.
That one in the middle.
Now, these are photographs of things that have sold.
These are photographs of paintings that I had taken either for newspaper publicity or for the outside of brochures for exhibitions, that sort of thing. And it at least gives me a record.
Yes. Well, these are new, aren't they?
Well,
A new
yes,
series.
they're current, yes.
Biscuit boxes, huh?
Well, Jack gave me that one bottom one for either a birthday or an anniversary present, and I use it to store paper bags, but I've overflowed. And it started a whole new thing, so that there were these biscuit boxes, and then these were in the cheese shop that's down on State Street. And the lady was so nice. This is the inside of the biscuit box, and this is the front of it. And there were all kinds of crackers and junk in them. So she took all the stuff out of the way so I could really see them, and then I think I made it a little bit more abstract by, you know, just using the panels as the painting. Are you chilly? Shall I close this?
Will you? Thanks. And this one, tell me about
Well,
this
this I just finished, if indeed it is finished. And it, of course, doesn't have a frame on it. And this is a great little device. This is a piece of a frame so I can see if I'm getting where I needed to be. But that's out in Colorado, believe it or not. But it was so much fun to paint all those things. You know, I was talking before about almost painting two paintings with the reflections. And with the pinamiento, I think is what they call it, of lettering fading in and out.
Was this a sign on the roadside?
Yeah, on the side of a rather large building, obviously. And it had been repainted a couple of times because you keep seeing Wrigley's and then Wrigley's, and this is the edge of this same box.
And you caught the fading part
Well,
of it.
I hope so.
I like that. Now, I see here, this is a
Oh,
kind of a
these
trademark.
are my very favorite things to paint are chairs. And I don't know, I used to think that might be because when the kids were little, I hardly ever had any time to sit down. So I was idolizing a seat. I don't know whether that makes any sense.
Now, were these hung in a special place?
They are Palmer Sharpless's, and Palmer makes my frames. He used to teach at George School and just retired. And I don't know whether these chairs predate or not that, but he seems to always have several up there, and I've done several other paintings of Palmer Sharp. If I like something, I'm very likely to do it from here and here and here, you know. And there are a couple of invitations that I could show you later if you'd like to see of Palmer shop.
Yes, and we want to see some
Different
more
arrangements.
of Morel's. The different
right,
things that you've
yeah.
done at Morel's.
Well, I'd love to show them to you.
Now this one, this is, you talked
This is
about your
Kate May.
reflections.
Well, this
Oh,
one.
this one isn't a reflection,
No,
is it?
this, not really. And you know, what did
Street
they
scene.
sell in stores before they got into sweatshirts or t-shirts? This was just
That's
fun
lovely.
because I loved all the stripes and the way these things that weren't
the
quite
colors.
open. And then the repetition of the same exact shape in all different colors. So,
That's
you know,
beautiful.
who knows? I think it was fun to do. I hope somebody else will think so.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, show me some of the reflection ones that you were talking
Okay.
about.
You think that this is as good a place to look at
Mhm.
them as
Mhm.
any?
Oh, this one is,
Maybe I could do this and then we wouldn't
Okay.
have the interference.
oh, nice.
Now this is a screen door, I guess quite obviously, and a store front. And it's one of the first reflections that I did. The doors were reflected in the kind of a bay on either
Oh, I
side.
see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The old storefronts
Yeah,
where they
right.
have the,
So it's not as complicated as some of the paintings. But it was, you know, I just think it's sort of interesting, the patterns and
oh, yes.
the way they repeat themselves. And then this got a lot
I'll
more
do this one.
complex.
Oh.
This is a storefront down on the other end of Newtown with Court Street and a part of the parking garage for the Whitehall Hotel.
That's reflected in the window.
Right here, and then this other building that is actually a little further down the street. And it's interesting that you find a great reflection, but it has to be reflected in something else that is equally interesting to paint. Or, you know, why bother?
So in order to do this, you saw the reflection, you grabbed a camera,
Right?
took a color slide,
Oh, no, I take, you know, prints.
prints,
For the life of me, I couldn't think.
and colored prints,
Yeah.
and then you assimilate all this from
That's
looking
right.
at those
Playing games
prints.
with it, basically.
What is this medium?
Casein.
Which is...
Can I show you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It comes in tubes, and actually it's basically sour milk and pigment. It doesn't really smell too badly.
Yeah, yeah. But that's what I associate with oil, but it isn't. It's
No,
casein.
it's, well, you know, buttermilk paint on old furniture?
Yes.
Actually, it's the same thing, except it really wasn't buttermilk, I don't think. As I understand it, it is sour milk. But it's a very permanent medium. You see, I spread it on a glass palette and mix it with water and paint on canvas that I have put onto masonite. And it gives me a wonderful, firm surface upon which to work. And I can work and work and work and, you know,
Changes.
beat it to death, and it's not going to get muddy.
Now you switched from watercolor. You had done
Yes,
watercolor.
I obviously had to be trained in both watercolor and oil, and I was unhappy with both.
You didn't like oil.
Well,
per se
oil was
either.
so gooey and greasy and slippery, and watercolor you have to be so terribly right, and you can't go ahead and mess around and try to develop textures. So I just think that this is a really super good medium for me, and I think I'm very lucky that I found it, you know, because I am able to do what I think I want to do with it.
And this is one you're working on now.
That's right.
And what? This is a view from the outside of a Victorian home.
No, it's inside.
I mean inside.
Looking
yes.
out through
right.
the screen
right.
door. These will become trees, which I'm not really nuts about painting. I much rather paint things. But this is kind of fun because a window on the side goes up and you catch a part of the ceiling of the porch outside. And it had these incredibly strange windows on three sides, but that's hidden here by the doorway.
Now, how long does it take you to do a painting, generally?
Susan, it depends on the size, it depends on the complexity, it depends on how easily it goes. Very often I'll paint on a couple of paintings at once, because if I get
I was
stuck,
gonna ask you that.
you know, why not do something and then maybe just thinking about it instead of actually
go
working on
back to
it
it.
for a while will help.
Well, I think I recognize this window. This is what you were talking about.
That is Mr. Morell's, and again and again and again. And
The
I don't,
ever-changing here. Huh?
well, it always changes. That is what's so nifty. I mean, none of these objects will reappear.
Mm-hmm.
And I have another painting here of it, which you might like to see.
Oh.
This again is completely different. This I loved, the motion of the spinning wheel and the wool winder.
Now here we have the reflection again, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more subtle than on some of them.
Now where are we here? Are we looking
Standing
out the
on the
window, or
sidewalk.
we're inside?
Right.
I mean outside.
No, we're
then.
outside on
Right.
the sidewalk,
Mhm.
and this is the window at the back of the shop, which I've used a couple of other
Yes.
times as well.
Mhm.
But it tends to move, shall we say,
Yes,
depending
that's
on
lovely.
when I want it to happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Would you like to have a cup of coffee? Shall we go in the kitchen?
Oh, I'd love to. Yes. Katherine, I've read that you term yourself a housewife and then a painter.
Well, I mean, I don't care which direction you go, and I've got to be both. You know, a mother of 4 children is
Yes.
going to have to devote some of her time to being a housewife. I'm not a very good one. I don't even care.
But is that one reason you chose the medium you did? Because you were raising the children? And
Oh, no. The medium is strictly because I may be deluded, but I think I can do whatever I want to with that kind of paint. And it's true, you can stop and you can start, and it isn't like, you're pulling a wash and somebody crashes and needs to have a Band-Aid. So this way I put down the paintbrush and I go get the Band-Aid. Not anymore. But, we used to. But this is just the great medium for me to work in.
I suppose the children respected your time in the studio.
Are you kidding? Are you a mother?
Yes, I am. But you still produced a lot of work while they were
Well,
young.
they had compulsory naps. And they finally all went trotting off to school. And I think that if I did anything, I tried to make the best use of my time. I led, at that point, a very regimented life. I did the wash on Monday. I did the ironing on Tuesday.
So that you could
And
paint.
I painted every afternoon. And I never went out to lunch. I still don't. I mean, I don't think that's really important. But I really, really concentrated on having enough time to do that. Because that was at least as much of an important thing to me as all the other things that I had to do.
And so you still paint daily?
Oh, yeah. Only now I can start at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes, huh?
Or 7:30, depending.
Well,
Right.
you've had a lot of shows all over the country, and you've been...
Eastern Seaboard, mostly.
Is there any award that you've won that really meant the most to you?
Well, I suppose the one that I could have done, you can't do anything about any of them. But the one that perhaps was the most important, and the one that I had to have this done for me by someone else, was the Purchase Prize at the American Academy of Arts and Letters. Because a certain very limited number of galleries are chosen to make submissions. The galleries choose the painters whose work they wish to submit. So, I mean, you're really pretty far out of it.
It has nothing to do
You
with-
get to choose the
yes.
painting that if you are asked by the gallery, if they are asked, then you could send it. And when you've gotten through that process and they decide to give you a prize, which is buying your painting, you've been through a lot.
Now,
you know.
who has that particular painting? Where is
The Rutgers University over New Brunswick.
And what was that subject? Do you remember?
Oh, bird cages.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Bird cages.
I loved my bird cages.
Mhm.
Right.
Your children, how many? Do you know how many pieces you've painted?
I started keeping track of them a good while ago. We're up to 600 and some, but I don't remember.
That's amazing. At one point, I read that you were going to give up on your work, and that somebody knocked on your door and convinced you otherwise.
You're talking about Mr. Duveen, who
Yes.
came the afternoon I was trying to have a birthday party for Janet. I was out back. We didn't have a dryer. I was hanging up the diapers, and we had just come back from Venezuela. And I guess I was sort of tired, and I had then 2 very small children, and it seemed like it was an awful lot to try to keep dealing with all this. And I thought that I was discouraged. But when this man, who had a gallery on Madison Avenue in New York, came down having seen the show at Phelps Mill and wanted to find me, I think that changed my mind about being all that tired, right?
Rightfully so. Well, I was visiting Katherine in Newtown. She told me about an exhibit that she was going to have at the Coryell Gallery in Lambertville, New Jersey, and asked me to come. So I decided to come today. Hi,
I'm
Katherine.
delighted that you could come.
Thank you very
I
much.
think it's so much easier to see the paintings here.
Oh, yes.
The studio is a fine place to work, but this is a much better place to be able to see them.
There, and gee, you have many here, don't you?
Well, I think that there are 20,
Very, very
but
nice.
some of them are not very large.
How about telling us about some of them?
Well, this is my daughter's back doorbell, and my son-in-law, of whom I'm very fond, was trying to be helpful, and he took a flash photograph of it, which sort of proves the old adage that you better do it the hard way, because I loved the shadows. They are really why I wanted to paint the painting. And of course, with a flash,
And
they
you
were
didn't get
totally
them.
gone.
Yes.
So I just had to visit them another time and draw it.
Uh-huh.
Then these, this one is up in Damariscotta, Maine, and I was most enamored of this wonderful firehouse. I just, you know, if I find a great design in a building, I'm totally happy.
And all the shadows
Right, and the kind of way it doesn't exactly
match.
stay.
Yes.
Right.
A little tilting there, a little Pisa.
I don't know whether I overdid the tilting, but
Oh.
I don't think it matters. And this one is in Pemberton, New Jersey. And it doesn't seem to matter where I am. I keep finding the same kinds of things that I really enjoy working on.
Now, do you usually choose Victorian architecture?
I would say I usually choose things that are man-made. I seem to have a real aversion to plastic.
And so modern
Yeah.
buildings would
Modern,
you
no,
wouldn't
I
choose.
love some of them. The Doylestown Hospital, I think, is magnificent. But, you know, it's a solid structure, and it's interesting, and its angles are just marvelous. But a lot of modern office buildings are pretty boring.
But you do like the gingerbread and
Oh,
the-
I do love the gingerbread,
Yeah.
Susan, you're right.
Let's go over and see these.
Okay.
Now, I see you did your biscuit boxes, but these are, what, lobster?
These are either lobster or crab pots, I'm not sure which. And I've done those several different times. They make, I think, kind of great patterns. And all the intricacy
Yes,
of the
the
netting
netting.
is, you know, you can't overdo it, but you have to do it. And it's fun to paint.
Now, was this in Maine?
This is in Booth Bay Harbor. The one up here is in Pineville, so we've come back home.
Yes. In the old basketball
Right.
net right on the corn crib.
Exactly. I thought that,
Yeah.
I love the shadow that it's casting. And I've done a lot of corn cribs because they're kind of fun. You see through them, especially in this one.
Oh, that's
You
great.
can see, you know, through two sides of the thing. And it's hard to find corn cribs anymore.
Well, they're tearing them down.
That's right, or they're falling down, which I think is very sad.
Now, I notice a red dot here beside the name
That
and your
means
name.
that somebody beside me liked it.
Oh, good. Which
was
means they
nice.
bought it.
Yes, that's right.
So at this gallery, you can come to purchase as well
Oh,
as just
certainly.
see.
This is, I guess you would call it a commercial gallery, as opposed to a museum situation where the things are there for the
Just on
edification
display.
of the public or
Yes,
something.
yes. Well,
Right.
let's go over to this one. Oh, here are the chairs, some more chairs.
Some more chairs. I have a thing about chairs.
Yes.
And this one was done right here in the Coryell, in the Porkyard, I'm sorry.
Oh.
The wall over there, one of the antique dealers had arranged all these things on, and I was up seeing Janet for some reason and decided that this would make a wonderful painting. And again, somebody else thought so, which is
Yes, that
very
is
gratifying.
wonderful.
And then I seem to have a thing about coaches as well, especially Victorian coaches, because this is maybe the fourth or fifth of those I've done. But this was a child's doll coach.
And you did this before Jamie Wyatt did his.
I
huh?
did, darn it.
Well, now
What
it's
can
on
you do
tape and
about
everyone
that?
will know that.
Right, thanks. I never thought about that.
I see some over on this wall, the boats stacked.
Oh,
Could we
yes.
go over there?
Well, I thought I had shown you a boat at home, but perhaps I
don't think
didn't.
you did.
And I love doing these. In fact, I don't do anything I don't love doing. So I guess I love doing everything. But these are down on Boathouse Row along the Schuylkill River. And our son-in-law, another son-in-law, not the one of the bell,
Yes.
was a world-class oarsman. And I was very lucky to go down with him a couple of times to do some work in the boathouses. And this is, I think this is Vespers. No, this is the University of Pennsylvania. They're all so different. They have their own character. And this one is very red and blue and very tidy. And the Barge Club is very staid because they're older men and it's very dark inside. It's, you know, it's fun that they each have their own personality, shall we say.
And this one. Now, this is another one of the Reflection series.
Yes.
And is this Newtown again?
No, this is Cape May, but it could be Newtown, could be Doylestown. That's what I think it's the subject, not the location that's important to me. But just as a matter of identification, sometimes I put, you know, the location in which they had been done.
And then you're very precise with your titling. Orange Shutters, Cape May.
Isn't that an original title?
Yes. Very.
I'd like to have you meet Janet Hunt, the director of the gallery, Susan.
Yes.
She's also a good friend, but it's such a charming place. This
Hello,
is
Janet.
Janet.
It's nice
Nice
meeting
to
you.
meet you. Welcome to the gallery.
Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about the Coryell Gallery? When did it start?
Well, it started in 1979, actually, and I've been here about 7 years, and we represent about 30 or 35 prominent Delaware Valley artists from Bucks County and New Jersey, and have one from Maine. And would you like to see the
Yes, well.
gallery?
Now, do you have only living artists on display here?
I have, by and large, living artists. I also, I'm happy to say that I have paintings by William Lathrop, who was one of the founders of the Bucks County School of Impressionist Paintings, and who came to New Hope in 1898, and also the work of Harry Leith Ross, another New Hope circle painter who came to the area in the mid-30s and was a National Academician, as was Lathrop.
And aren't both of them on display at the new James Michener Art Center?
They are indeed, yes.
So
that's
people could see them and then purchase it here, right?
That's for sure.
That would be wonderful.
Yes, yes. That's a wonderful center. I've been to the Michener Center.
Now, you have some of the paintings here of artists that we've visited, I think.
Yes, we have the work of Ranulph By and Harriet Ermintrout and Anita Gronendahl
And Katherine, of course.
Katherine Renninger, of course.
Can you tell us about the Coryell Gallery itself? What are we in? What is this building?
Oh, well, this is a sausage factory. It was built about the turn of the century, and it was called Cooker's Sausage Factory, and a thriving business it was up until probably the 30s. And then various small businesses were used the building. And about 10 years ago, the 4 enterprising men bought the building, and Jim Hamilton, who is a designer, designed the layout of the
It's a
gallery.
lovely space. Well, thank you so much for letting us visit the gallery.
Well,
and it's very nice meeting you.
My pleasure indeed.
Katherine, it's been great.
Well, thank you, Susan. It's been very fun for me.
This is Susan Steele Mulholland saying good night for Artbeat.